Hello, fellow listeners and subscribers and viewers. I'm Hung Pang, Managing Director and Physiotherapist at Propel Physiotherapy. I'm joined here today with registered physiotherapist and clinic manager out of our Propel Pickering location, Alanna Holz. Alanna, thanks so much for joining me and us today. And as a reminder to everyone, this is an opportunity to kind of get to know our physiotherapists a little bit more, and especially our clinic managers. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, not a problem. So really, there's a lot of stuff to talk about and get to know you a little bit more. I understand you played sports growing up, and as a result, there may have been some injuries sustained. Can you talk to me about your experiences with physiotherapy growing up and how that has affected your career choice and why you became a physiotherapist?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So I think my first introduction to physiotherapy was I had a bad ankle sprain when I was skiing as a kid. I think I was about 8. So I didn't really know what it was as a profession before that because I had never seen it before. But I thought it was really interesting, and I really liked the interplay of the sciences and then also being physically active. And then I knew I probably wouldn't do really well in a desk job, so it just seemed like a really good fit. And then I kind of catered my school choices around that. So I've known actually for a really long time that this is what I wanted to do.
Very cool. The rooted passion for physiotherapy goes back when you were little, super little. That's awesome.
Super little.
Yeah. And your school choices, you went to Western. And all biases aside, I went to Western as well, so yay, go Mustangs. From there you went on to complete your master's at U of T for physiotherapy. And since becoming a registered physiotherapist, you've continued to pursue other academic courses as best as you can. Can you tell me a bit about the training you've pursued since becoming a physio, and then how has that shaped your career path?
So I've done my level 1 manual therapy. I've done acupuncture courses. I've done a bow bath course, taping courses, and then online pediatric physiotherapy courses. So I really like to kind of see who I'm seeing in the clinic and then tailor my coursework to help them best. So it does kind of depend on what my caseload looks like, and then I'll take courses to kind of tailor to their needs so I can try and help them as best as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, from stepping aside from the course here, it's depending on what your client's needs are, and even if that client is predominantly, let's call it a private neurological client, they might have some orthopedic issues associated with their condition, and to kind of draw from that skill set and apply it to a neuro field, and vice versa. I think that's really important. And I'm wondering if you've had any kind of firsthand experience doing that already, or if that's something, or somehow you're kind of shaping your caseload that way.
Yeah, I think there's an interplay between both of them, with pretty much everyone I see. Specifically, wheelchair users come to mind. We need to be really, really careful with their shoulders and making sure that the alignment's really good, the strength is really good, because that's their primary form of mobility. So if they end up with a rotator cuff tear or an impingement syndrome, that's affecting their day-to-day life. They can't get around. So I think it's really important to kind of be looking at both sides of the lens. And just from a really holistic view, if someone with a neuro injury has other overlying orthopedic issues, or has a history of orthopedic issues, or if they had a stroke but they also have osteoarthritis, you kind of have to come at it with different angles to provide the best care for them.
Yeah, that's a good way to kind of frame it. I feel like sometimes in school, in our training, it's okay, section 1, you're doing this, section 2, you're doing this. And then in the end, quickly, we're going to do it all together. And then you're okay, now I'm ready. And then, if you don't practice that, or if you don't actually apply it on a day-to-day basis, it's tough to integrate everything seamlessly.
Absolutely.
Right? Awesome. So, since working in a private neurological clinic and complex orthopedic clinic, is there anything about the neurological rehabilitation process that has surprised you, or that wasn't how you thought it would be?
Yeah, I think kind of like the way that they frame neurological injuries in school, it's like they have this type of injury, this is kind of what you're going to see. But realistically, when you have someone coming into the clinic, they can have the same injury on paper and present totally differently. And I think that's something that surprised me a little bit, and something that I think makes it so like interesting and dynamic to work with this population.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the other things that I often hear is like our training in Ontario anyways, like there is that, I think, sharpened focus on like the acute and subacute care, while you're in hospital, or maybe you've just returned home for the first X amount of weeks, but then from like X amount of weeks till the rest of your life, that is like a really, really gray area that people have trouble navigating. So I would wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Yeah. And I think it's something that not a lot of clinics do. I think we're really unique in that situation where like we're seeing people when they come out of acute care, when they come out of rehab, but they haven't met their goals necessarily. They still have all these goals that they want to work towards. So I think that's where we really come in. We're like, oh, so like you want to get back to golf.
Right.
Like this isn't something that you can necessarily like address in like acute care or like inpatient rehab, but this is still, you still have like these deficits and you have these goals, and like what else can we work on to get you back to those meaningful activities in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I often reflect and think about like discharge planning summaries that I went through as a student, and now that I look back on my notes, I'm like, okay, these are very like obviously discharged from hospital, right? Like can they safely transfer? Are they able to ambulate like X amount of meters, 3 to 4 steps to get in the home, sit to stands? Like, if we can clear these things, we're going to meet these specific goals. And then the goal setting outside of that is, it's the vast ocean that we get to practice in. So
like awesome. What were they doing before the injury? Like what's really important to them?
Totally. Is there so you recently returned from maternity leave, and so obviously congratulations, all that stuff, all that great stuff. As a new mom, are there any new skill sets you've gained that have become useful in your work as a physiotherapist?
So my son Jax had a little bit of torticollis when he was little. So I think just like I had to do a little bit of pediatric physiotherapy with him. Yeah. And I think it was just really good experience, like since having my own kid, and kind of like just getting a lot more exposure to like young kids and working with them, and kind of like the specific like techniques that you need to use. So I think my comfort level has increased with that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, like firsthand experience, you can't beat that, right? It's like, okay, now you're into the zone really, really quickly. I often think like when I had my first kid, it was like my ability to communicate and have even extended patience has improved. Don't get me wrong. I'm everyone's human. I still get super frustrated. I still need to vent and stuff like that. But the battery pack on communication and the battery pack on patience has certainly been extended. So
I think that holds true with me as well, especially the patience part, especially now that he's a toddler. That's really had to, I've been working that muscle a lot.
It'll get even better. So awesome. I mean, like, it sounds like you've had a well-crafted caseload and well-balanced. Is there a specific client population that you do really enjoy working with, and why?
So I do like having kind of like a varied caseload, like a mix of different kinds of injuries, because it does, like to what we were speaking about before, like there is an interplay between all of them. And I also feel like it really helps to keep your skills sharp if you're working with different populations. I do really like working with people with neurological injuries. I just find like it's so complex, and like I said, it's really dynamic, and like you can really make like very, very like meaningful changes over time and helping them get back to things that are important to them. Specifically, like I really like working with people who have spinal cord injuries. But yeah, any kind of like neurological condition, it's so complex and varied, and I just find it super interesting. And you can be really, really creative with those populations as well, in terms of like your treatment planning and the type of things that you do during your sessions.
That's a great way to frame it. And that creativity part is key. I mean, like therapy can kind of get stagnant at times, and if we were only equipped with what we knew from school, I think we would all just continue to be doing sit to stands or something endlessly without applying it, right? So you lived in London for Western undergrad, and you've had the experience to live in Toronto, and now you're living in the Durham area, we'll call it, right? What's it been like to work in Pickering, and how's it been different from working in Toronto, and maybe commenting on how does that differ from living in London while you were a student? Which essentially we want to know, which area do you like the most and why?
Well, of course, I like Pickering the best.
Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah. I think so. When I was working in Toronto, I was working in the financial district. So it was a lot of just straight orthopedic, lawyers who are sitting at their desk for 14 hours a day with neck pain and low back pain. So not as varied of a caseload as I like to see. I think we've talked about a little bit here, it's a lot more varied, different neurological and orthopedic injuries, and also a little bit more weekend warriors, people with higher level athletic goals, which I find interesting to work with as well. So I think that it's just a little bit more varied than what I was seeing when I was working downtown.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I mean, the Pickering area is booming, right? So more and more younger families and diverse families are moving to the area. So you're going to capture a lot of kind of different clientele as well. So, I'll diverge from this question. I'll put you on the spot a little bit. What was your favorite spot to eat in London as a student?
Any kind of shawarma.
Shawarma. Bearcats?
Bearcat was good. And then pita. No, there was one.
Sammy Souvlaki on the road on Richmond Road.
No, I never went there. There was one, I was in MedSid, and there was one that was right on the corner that I'm blanking on the name of now, but I used to frequent that on the way home at late nights.
Nice.
But Bearcat was really good too.
Good. Awesome. Okay. All right. Just making sure you went to London and, verify with the utmost stringency.
That was actually going to be my point with the last question. I do miss the food scene in Toronto.
Yes, I can vouch for that being, very top notch. Yeah, for sure. As we mentioned earlier, we introduced you as the clinic manager at Propel Pickering. You've had the opportunity to mentor, physiotherapists who've recently graduated, some physios who have had a handful of years of experience. What is some of the best advice you could give to people starting out in this profession, or starting out, their profession in Canada or in a different location?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think my biggest piece of advice is to find a mentor, or to find two mentors. Maybe one, if you're looking for a job, it's really good to find a mentor outside of the clinic that you work at. If you're not sure about the business practices, or you want to float ideas by them, or have them look over a contract or something like that, I think it's really good to have an external person that can be unbiased about it and say hey, I think this is on the level, this looks legit. So I think in terms of getting a job, that's a really good one. And then finding someone that you can in your clinic too, that you can kind of bounce ideas off of, or that you can practice your skills on, is so important. We don't necessarily want to be practicing on our clients for the first time we do something. Right. So, and if same goes with if you take courses later on, you want to be able to practice that on someone. So I think finding someone that is maybe a little bit more experienced than you, or even another new grad that you can just sit down, take time every week to practice your skills with, I think that's invaluable. I think it's super important.
Yeah, that's great piece of advice. I feel with the course taking, it's you try to absorb all this knowledge, and then you actually do need to apply. So even if it's simple instructions, or the way you present an instruction or an exercise, or how you're even handling someone's neck and not fumbling around with it, super important to get that, all the cobwebs and all the rust out of the way.
Yeah. And having the confidence to do it well with someone. Totally. I think that's half the battle, is just not feeling awkward about it when you're trying to tell a client.
And the more bodies you practice on, the better it is, right?
Exactly, because everyone's bodies are a little bit different. So you want to get your hands on as many people as possible to get those skills down. Yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice. So
We're nearing the end of this quick interview here, but as a physical therapist with extensive education, training, and experience in helping people move better and live better, what would your best advice for the general public regarding physical activity be?
I think the biggest thing that I recommend for my clients is find something that you enjoy doing and then be consistent with it. So if you don't like it, you're not going to do it, or you're not going to enjoy your time doing it. So like, if you don't like going to the gym, that's fine. But if you really like rock climbing or doing something else, like just find something that's going to keep you active and that you enjoy doing on a regular basis that you're not going to get sick of. And I think that's a lot more sustainable over time. Yeah,
it is a time game too, right? You won't see results of regular physical activity until you're like doing, well, regular physical activity. We have these, I find like these Canadian physical activity guidelines, and like there's a couple of minutes, moderate to vigorous, you know, like how am I going to fit 150 in my day, in my week, right? And one of the best kind of like lines I've heard from some of our fellow clinicians was, you know, we need to remember a lot of people kind of get timid when you hear the word exercise or even physical activity. So, you know, what flashes to a lot of people's minds is, here we go. Someone's going to recommend me doing something that I don't like doing and that I'm scared to do, and I do not find any joy in it. So the fact that you're pointing people towards something that's salient, meaningful, makes them happy, like all these other affective components, that's going to generate like consistency. And often like I've got a client that's like gung ho on gardening, like beyond, you know, knowledgeable. That's them, right? And, you know, we had to come up with a game plan for the winter-ish times because not as much gardening. So it revolved around like garden prep. And it's like, okay, you know, maybe we got to get, you know, the soil ready or the foundation ready, or maybe we got to build something in the workshop to get the garden ready for the spring and summer. And that turned into their regular, quote unquote, like physical activities. They busted a sweat. They're really happy. And I don't think I would have gotten the same kind of traction with them if I said like, okay, you know, 3 sets, 10 reps of this like TheraBand exercise. That's really good, right?
Because it's not meaningful to them. But like you looked at what your client's goals are, what's important to them, you tailor that to them, and they're going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, last little bit, some rapid fire questions to wrap up this little interview. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. What's the last movie you watched?
I think the last one I watched was Training Day. Randomly.
Hardcore, man. Just a regular Monday night Training Day. Okay, Denzel in the house.
It was a lot. I'd never seen it before.
You haven't seen? Okay.
No.
Okay. Have you? Okay. There's a lot I'm learning from you.
Side conversation, maybe.
Okay. Where's your dream vacation destination?
It changes all the time. I'd really like to go to Hawaii and do hiking. But yeah, it does change regularly.
Okay,
I think that's currently my goal.
Hawaii. That sounds amazing. What's your favorite sport to play?
Volleyball.
Volleyball. What's your favorite sport to watch?
I'm really boring and I don't watch sports on a regular basis. So I'm going to say Summer Olympics, specifically like track and field.
All right. Neutral. Very PC response. I like that.
Yeah.
What new skill or hobby have you acquired since the pandemic started?
I'm going to say diaper changing.
Fair.
Yeah. Done a lot of that.
That's awesome. Well, Alanna, thanks so much for spending some time with us and with our fellow viewers and listeners and subscribers. As I mentioned earlier, if you do have additional questions regarding physiotherapy, you can always get a hold of us and Alanna at 416-621-2506, or you can email us at info@propelphysiotherapy.com, and we'd be happy to address your questions or concerns. Alanna, once again, thanks so much for your time, and thanks so much for being such a great sport for these questions.
Thank you.
Take care.